Okay, we are live. I'd prefer to do this live, but the thing is, I think with our schedules, it's not gonna be easy to do that. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start looking at bets. Probably Enduro, maybe Blastar. We'll see. I haven't done a full code review. Welcome. I don't know what your comment is, but um, okay. So I already merged it. I'm trying to think what the best way to do this is because I already merged the code. I guess I guess I'll just like the main point of this is just to show Bet like stuff maybe he can improve and find anything that's free with Enduro. So why don't we just go right to the main code? All right. Okay, so this is the environment that we're going to be reviewing. It's Bet's implementation of Enduro. This is already merged. It already has a superhuman policy. It's just I promised him a thorough code review of this because there's a lot of stuff in here. The implementation is at least twice as long, maybe 3 times as long as I expected it to be. So it could just be that I dramatically underestimated the complexity of this environment, but it could also just be that there's a bunch of redundant stuff or whatnot. So I'm going to try to figure out if I can get a handle on this morning. And then after this, probably will merge Blastar, that's other environment that's been in development, and then we'll see from there. So this runs very nicely as is. Now let's start with the C file. We've got about 108 lines. We've also got this nice perf test. Let's run that real quick. Welcome, Molten. So Bet's Enduro is plenty fast, from what it seems. 3 million steps per second on one core. That is plenty. And this is with random actions, kit input. Yeah, so this should all be fine. And the only memory leaks he has are, these are like standard raylib dependency leaks. You can't do anything about these as far as I'm aware. Let's go back to this. And let's just look stylistically. So he makes n. Okay, so he's setting specific properties here. Hold on, is this a syntax? I believe it is. I'm not shipping meme coins. Yeah, we're not doing that. Are you creating an environment? I'm currently just code reviewing this contributed environment by Bet. He made this nice port of Enduro. Does this work? Hold on. This is the environment that we're looking at here. You can actually play this and see this on puffer.ai right now. It's also just locally here, as you can see in PufferLib. And we're just going to go through all the code for this, and I'm going to give him feedback, and I'm going to see if I agree with the way that he's written it. This is just one of the things that I do for contributors who are primarily here like trying to learn how to do stuff. See if I see any room for improvement and the like. Okay, so this thing that he did here is fine. I don't know, I generally like to do this. That really doesn't matter though. Okay, he calls allocate. Yeah, and this is open to literally anybody that contributes environments molten. So if you have a programming background and are interested in RL, we have like lots of people that just show up and build cool stuff all the time. And the environments get merged into Puffer, and you learn a bunch of cool RL stuff along the way. And now I'm starting to onboard some of those people onto the science side of PufferLib's efforts as well. Okay, so he just has this seeded and resets. This get input function is a little weird. He should not need this for a perf test. That's kind of bizarro. Right? Why would you be getting user input in a perf test? I think the fast version. It's actually even a little bit faster when you're not doing that redundant input checking. Okay, and you get this random action, and then you call step, and then you increment. This is all good. Let's see for the demo code. Demo code should be very similar. Loads and waits, makes network. Same thing as before. This really is not required, but I tend to like this syntax, so I use it where I can. Allocate, make the client. Seeding it differently is kind of funky, but whatever. Int running equals 1. Okay, so this is just bizarre. Like, why would you do this? Right? Still works. Escape still works. So I have no idea why you would do that loop there. RL has always been intimidating, so cool to learn RL. Began programming by automating games for fun with PyAuto GUI, so automating games is really interesting. Yeah, I mean, drop by the Discord. It's just discord.gg/puffer. Pretty much the way it works is I suggest that new contributors, you just show up and build a little test environment, either something you're interested in building, or we come up with ideas for you of stuff we want to see built. You build a little test environment. You go through the process of getting a RL policy trained on it via PufferLib. We help if you get stuck. We have a very simple way that we tend to do everything. All these environments, they're implemented in C, but it's very, very simple C. And we have templates and stuff that you can use, like lots of references. Make stuff run really fast, get stuff working, and then from there, you start picking up a lot of the actual nitty-gritty of what goes into RL dev from that, and you expand out from there. That's typically the way that we run things. Okay, so this get input is kind of weird. Yeah, that's totally redundant as well, that get input, because look, there's an else here that sets it to a no op. We can get rid of this. And that's fine. Spacing is personal, so I'm not going to critique like spacing and stuff unless it's egregious. And then you call linear LSTM. So the rest of this file is totally fine. And let's just make sure I haven't broken anything before we get into the heavier side of editing this. And you can see this is good, and if I hold shift, I can take over and control this guy, and you'll find very quickly that I'm nowhere near as good at this game as this neural net is. Not that bad at it, though. Yeah, so there you go. Now the neural net takes over. What do you think of RL, but the environment is interpreted trying to automate games just from frames? The key thing at the moment, at the current scale, is making stuff fast. So that's the main impediment. Like, if you think about it, right, like, if most of our LMs, like Atari and whatever, you are just playing by looking at the images coming out of it. But making stuff fast is hard. I don't quite know if that's what you meant. From a video, that might be like offline or supervised that you're looking into there. I don't know exactly what you're trying to do. Okay, so the nice thing is Bet didn't make a mess of this, at least. It's all in 1.h file, which I'm a fan of. Doesn't math have pi in it? But isn't there like pi in C? Okay, so I'm gonna start messing with stuff, and I'm gonna see if I break stuff. I think this is redundant because he's included math. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, so that silly macro goes away. Unless there's some reason for that. You don't need to comment the name of the file. Standard lib, standard bool, okay, there's a lot of stuff in here that I don't think you need all of this. We'll see. Pound defines for constants is fine. You can use pound defines or like const, doesn't really matter. I don't mind doing stuff like this as well. This is fine. Log buffer, width, height. These are comments. Let's get rid of this. These are just from old things. That's fine. I'm not going to ding you for leaving old uncommented stuff. Logical vanishing Y. I would like to get like some sort of dead code finder to see which of these are actually used. Because I suspect that he's probably with an M that's been in development for this long. Probably there's some redundant stuff. Time of day logic. Seconds spent in each time of day. Best background transition times. For this. Rendering constants. Yeah, those are redundant. I like this. This is fine. Magic numbers don't change. That's fine. Curve straight. So, I mean, I would do this. Num background transitions. It's fine. That's just being pedantic, really. Okay, so this is my logging code, just with extra stuff added into it. This is fine. Now the main thing, now we're going to get into real stuff, which is going to be, whoops, ignore the random seg faults. That's just literally my my OS setup being screwy. Okay, it's fine. If I'm playing it, I'm not as good as the other thing. Okay, so we have rendering struct game state. Really? Yeah, what is the point of this, is what I would ask. Okay, so this is like the type of thing where you introduce complexity for no reason. So you see you have this rendering struct, which has a ton of stuff in it, which, you know, we'll see if you actually use all this, right? But then if we go to client, client is literally width, height, and game state. Like, you don't need to nest structs like this, right? You don't need to nest structs like this at all. I'm trying to think if I want to just like make changes to this as I see fit. Maybe not without Bet here live. I'll just do minor stuff without Bet here live. And he can watch this and see from here. So let's see what he's put into here. He's got sprite sheet, render target. Okay, so background indices, you don't, if you have something that is a global constant, I believe this is what it is, right? Num background transitions. Background in asset BG0. Okay, no, this is something different. This is fine. And how does he have so many damn, so many things in this? Digit indices. Animation timer, animation interval, mountain position. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff in here. Ah, found ya. This doesn't get used. You see, this doesn't even get used. This does. This literally just gets used here. If I delete it, it should still work, right? Okay. Does this even... This one seems to get used, but it looks like that in general, some of the complexity at least is coming from having like unused dead variables and stuff. Definitely look for those. This is crazy. Look at the amount of stuff that is in the Enduro struct. And then again, there's all this stuff in the client. Maintain separation. To maintain separation. I think that might have misunderstood what I meant by this. So client enduro star env game state. Okay, so it looks like what Bet was trying to do here is I think he took one of my comments and misinterpreted it a little bit. I told him to make the rendering separate from the game, but I think he overdid it a little bit, and he went and tried to make most of these render functions depend only on this game state thing instead of on the environment itself. Unless you're building a client server architecture, which wouldn't make sense for like this at all, like where you have to have networked communication, it's perfectly fine to just read stuff out of the environment for the renderer. The only thing that's not fine is the other way around. You can't be initting like rendering stuff when you're just running the game logic. But you are allowed to use stuff from the environment when you're running the renderer. Actually, let me start writing Bet some feedback here as well. Some notes from code review. Excess complexity is coming from unused variables that were probably earlier in dev and either manually find, remove stuff like this or Google automated tools, IE features. Let's see. What else? Game state seems confused. Game state seems state struct seems confused. I told you to keep render separate env sim self. Doesn't mean that this only means can't render stuff in the sim, but you can still use env state from render. It is often simpler to do so. Only exception is if you're designing networked game like let's see what else. State nested client is redundant. Cut. Let's see what else we can get. Enemy car. Enemies. day transition times the heck? So day transition times just gets mem copied from background transition times. Let's see, around constants. Instance, in it appears you have day transition times, which is getting mem copy on init from background transition times. You can just use the constant. You don't need to copy it into a struct. Okay, so these are just like small redundancies that I'm finding in code that probably add up to like a decent bit of cuttable code here. Like I wouldn't be surprised in a 2000 line or 2300 line file. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like 300 lines of just this type of fluff that can be removed, and that's pretty normal, especially for newer programmers. This type of stuff here, I actually don't mind this at all. It's totally fine. No, I don't mind just made in enum. That's totally fine. What do we have here now? Okay, so you could use the initializer syntax with all this stuff. I don't mind not using it as much here, but you could just use the initializer syntax for everything. Gear acceleration rates, cumulative speed. What, cumulative speed? I would have just pre-computed and hard-coded this stuff. Gear speed increment, like... Yeah, you can see this. There's also some redundant constant logic that should just be pre-computed and hard-coded. For instance, have gear timings, which is only used in init to compute gear speed thresholds and gear acceleration rates. Gear rates. At the least, don't make gear timings. At the least, just make gear timings a local variable and don't construct, or you could just hard code speed thresholds and accelerations. Either works. Okay. Randomize initial time, this is fine. Setting this to 0 is redundant, right? Daytime initializations to 0 is redundant. That's how it does that for you. Similar applies in several places. Oh, wait, is he calling it init in multiple reset round? Does he call init? Wait, so this is reset, which calls init set. Wait, what the heck? Init. Does he have this hard-coded twice? He does have it hard-coded twice. You duplicated initialization, init, and reset round, including all the hard-coded values. Set stuff that only needs to be set up once in init, do the rest in reset. Okay, so I didn't even see that. So that's like a huge block of redundancy. So if we're gonna say that there are like a couple hundred lines at least of redundancies and just like unused and like small scale fixes, then there are gonna be a lot more than that in medium scale stuff like this. There's like no reason to do this. Yeah, like look, all this stuff is duplicated, right? If I go from here, let me just make sure this is the case. Yeah, look, he actually did duplicate everything. It's like the same function done twice. So that's silly. Okay, check collision. Now we actually get into real env logic. So we are 800 lines in. I believe and all we've done is set up tons of variables, right? Like some of this stuff here can get pre-computed, some of it doesn't need to be here. See my newer hems for condense logic. All this would be gone as well. So yeah, we could save, actually, I think we could save a couple hundred lines just in the intros, in the initial stuff. Yeah, you don't need these pre-declarations either. The function prototypes player thinks in order to use them. So that can go away. So yeah, there's just tons of code that can be saved here. Tons of code to be saved. I actually don't even know. Reset round. Reset round equals soft reset. So this gets called what is this? Oh, C step, okay. So this doesn't even get yeah, he made two separate resets, so this could be unified. Okay. Now let's start reading actual logic. See if we have anything weird in here. Check collision. Depth. Scale. Okay, so this is where he used float. He used it for Fmax. That's totally fine. Car width equals car width times scale. That's fine. Car X position. I mean, comments like this don't need to exist. LF. Yeah, this is fine. Your current is good. We don't need this, right? Greater than car X plus car width. So these are stylistically, you put these here. I think that's fairly standard. That's not me being picky. Yeah, that looks good like this as well. Determine which of the three lanes the player's car is in. Does this comment tell you anything? I mean, it's fine, but I don't like... The function name just tells you that, right? This didn't really help. Like, any literate person can look at this and say, oh, look, 0, 2, cool, there are three lanes. X, offset, left edge, right edge, lane width. Left edge, lane width. Cool, so it's just, I don't like the inline ifs, but they're kind of fine. They're simple enough that I'm not going to bother on it. That's fine. Get car scale. The hell? Look, you have this function and you don't use it. Right? Defining get car scale, but not using it in check is in. Like, you use it here. Add enemy car. Okay. There's a way to save lines of code and there's a way to not save lines of code. This doesn't do anything, right? Don't. There. Just do that. That's fine. The point of saving lines of code is to not have redundant stuff. It's not to compress like everything up into, it's not to gulf it, right? I'm not like trying to gulf your code. I'm just trying to get rid of redundant stuff that makes stuff muddy to follow. Player lane is get player lane. Fine. Furthest lane. Why is that there? Okay, because it gets set up here. That's fine. But then I would do this, right? I'd group it. Player lanes, get player lane, possible lanes. Did I break chat? Hopefully Wi-Fi is not broken here. Uh-oh. Chat extension is not loading, so hopefully it still works and still pops up on the screen here. Let me just actually review this logic, because I don't know if this makes any sense. Players in middle lane decide based on player's position relative to the road center. Road edge X. Okay, so this is center computation. And then, okay, this is not as bad as I thought. This piece of logic is kind of fine. Only spawn in lane furthest from player. Possible lanes. Randomly select a lane. Spawn the last spawn lane 30% of the time. Knit a car. Ensure minimum spacing. Do not do this. What the fuck? I mean, actually, it's not that bad if you want to do it. Why does this look worse to me in C than Python? It's probably just because the lack of syntax highlighting. I mean, at least, like, crop it, though. Like, man, holy hell. If you're gonna do that, at least do that. Honestly, I would probably do one per line since you're doing these inline functions as well, but whatever. Car Y. What? So why do you have this, right? Like, why? I don't understand why you would do this, where you would do like this partial here. Like, am I stupid, or is there like, you just do this, right? If you're gonna do it anyways like that. And then we get rid of this. See, initializer overrides prior initialization. Oh, that's so weird. Yeah, why did you do that? Right? It should just be this. Lanes. Dot y, dot last y, dot path. Yeah, let's just do this. Okay, and it still works, right? Yeah, still works. Yeah, if you just look at stuff, you'll find redundancy all over the place. Let's see, what's this dynamic spacing factor? Okay, reversed pattern. Continue. Not hard, right? Reverse conditional. Avoid stupidly deep nesting. Generally, I'll do this. It doesn't really matter much. That's preference. Ensure not occupying all lanes within vertical range of 6 car lengths. Okay. More spawn checks are fine. Is there a reason to not... Is there a reason not to merge these loops? Maybe this check is cheaper. I mean, there's like potential to merge these two loops, right? So I would look at that if I were writing this. This is silly. Whatever. And then this is spawn the car. Cool. Update time of day. Wait, what the hell is this? So, update time of day, total duration, day transition times. How is there a while loop in here? While less than 15. Elapsed time greater than equal to. Oh. That's a weird way of doing. That's a really bizarre way of doing logic there. Daytime index. Yeah, that's very, very weird. Whatever. Validate speed. This is not a validate function, my friend. This is a clamp function. You literally wrote a comment here. How much does this get called? Yeah, we just call speed. See how simple that is? And then you don't need to have a comment. The function name tells you what the function does. There you go. Still works just like it does before. Validate gear. Clamp gear. Do I need to tell you? Okay. So that's it. Cap speed to gear threshold, whatever. There's some redundancy there looks like there is some redundancy in here as well, right? I'm more likely to mess stuff up here. This is generally fine. Okay, now we get to the big function. Big function. First of all, it is completely fine to have a function this long, which you will see. There's absolutely no problem with having a function that long. At least not inherently. Now, we will see whether it is confused or not. Update enemy car positions. Are they always just able to move like this? They can't hit you? That seems buggy. Can I not just get in front of one of these guys and then like... I think you actually do phase through. Huh, he disappeared. The car disappeared. Oh, did you see that? It just phased through me. That's funny. So there seem like there are potentially some shenanigans going on here. Yeah, they teleport. Hmm. Road edges. Reduced handling on snow. That's cool. Let's look at the switch statement. So I don't like that this has been golfed with these like one-line ifs. I also just generally don't like switch statements without a good reason for them. I highly doubt this is contributing anything to the speed up of having the switch be a lookup table. Highly doubt it with all the other floating point stuff you're doing. Like, no way. I'd leave this. This isn't like egregious. The golfing is kind of dumb. You're also starting to indent to the point where you could consider sticking this into a move or whatever. But generally, this is fine otherwise. Okay, so we have an else. Where's this? Okay, so that's not okay. You can't have stuff that's indented wrong like that. That's just confusing. Like, what the hell does this even do? Hey, welcome. Guys. Currently, we're code reviewing Enduro, high perf Enduro submitted by Bet. Type reinforcement learning in Twitch, and this came up. This is high performance reinforcement learning dev with PufferLib. We are currently reviewing Bet's Enduro environment, which looks just like the classic Atari game, but runs like 1,000 times faster. This is no hams. This is a superhuman neural net policy playing it right now in pure C. And we are currently looking through the environment code and getting some feedback for Bet on general improvements to development practices, logic, and the like. If you are unfamiliar with PufferLib, you can join the Discord. It's discord.gg/puffer. Got a ton of people building high-perf RL environments in there, and starting to get a lot of cool science side work as well. Okay, come on, Bet. What is this? You don't like gulp your code, right? You do this. And then what is this? Is end collision car versus is this the same logic here that's just duplicated? Yeah. Cooldown logic duplicated. We use PPO for pretty much everything. Working on PPO at work and looking. Yeah, I mean, Puffer's great for you then. We do like RL at 1,000,000 steps a second. We've got PPO with or without LSTMs, baselines on like a dozen different high performance environments. Really nice hyperparameter sweep integration. We pretty much got everything you would want in that department. We also do packages for companies as well, though all of our code is free and open source. So you're more than welcome to just poke around and start using it for work as well. I just stream all the development because people watch it, and why not? Drift towards furthest road edge. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know Enduro does that. That's cool. What is this? So car lane is 1. This is a little dense, but generally not terrible. Drift distance per step. Yeah, okay. So a little odd, not terrible. Hey, welcome. I just like point at people's views. Yeah, can I say like, yeah, I can do like this. Hey, welcome. A little odd because the camera's mirrored. I should fix that. I also have to fix, I've had some Ethernet driver issues, so if the stream crashes, then it'll be back up in a minute. Enemy cars. What's this? So this is just checking for empty lanes. This is just figuring out what lanes are empty. Is lane empty? Fine. Give a reward if the player's lane is empty in front. Okay. That's reasonable. Road curve, vanishing point, movement. Clamp X. Okay. Horizontal position ratio. Don't know what that is. Vanishing point. Vanishing point based on current curve. After curve shift, there's wiggle logic. Oh, what is this? Let me see. Curve in. So that's fine. Wiggle logic. Max. Okay, there's some function for this. Cool. Reset wiggle. That's a short little block, that's fine. Update player Y based on speed. Minus M speed minus min speed. That's a weird normalizing factor. Clamping. Handle collision between player and road edges. Okay. This is indented wrong, right? Why is this double indented? Wait, is this? Hold on. Yeah, that's weird. Remove off-screen cars that move below the screen. So that's why if you back up, it's not consistent. That's funny. Logical vanishing point if moving up. You could merge some of these for loops. But I'm not going to be too harsh on this because it looks like you were trying to reduce the number of checks going on. If car is behind the player, all right, don't put non-UTF-8. Don't put like non-ASCII characters in here. Like, what is this? Come on. That's just silly. If car is behind the player. Isn't this duplicated? Well, we're at 1200. Add enemy car. Yep, this is duplicated. Farthest. Over 9. So this whole like logic is duplicated as well. And this is just stuff that I've caught as duplicated. Hey, that guy, how's it going? Okay, you got it. Yeah, this is too much. Providing bad math. Very good. I just do. Yeah, wow, whatever, that's fine. Let's do something. Like, I don't really care how you cut stuff up as long as you do. If you need input on that project, by the way, I can do that later today. I'm trying to clean up a bunch of contributor and Puffer affiliated projects. Cars passed. A lot more free over next week. Sounds good. Car passed, no crash active. Okay. Next cars to pass. For passing, ops is fine. Come on, bet. Nest ifs like that for no reason. Make sure we haven't broken anything yet. So I've made a good number of little changes here and there without breaking anything, it seems. I haven't gone as crazy as I could, but I've given him at least some stuff to work with here. I think that's a good thing. I make some changes and leave some others to him. Why is this not a max spawn intervals? Come on. These two at. What'd I mess up? Uh, yeah. Min spawn interval. Okay. Holy, what is this? Update enemy spawn timer. Okay, yeah, this is where breaking this into a separate function would let you do an early return here. So this is like, yeah, this is where like a separate function would just give you an early return here, so you wouldn't have this so nested. Because this is kind of silly. Digging around in PufferLib looks great so far. Let me know if you hit any issues. I pretty much stream all the devs, so. We also have a lot of demos on puffer.ai. There's docs. Recently we released 2.0, so huge amount of new stuff in there. It's probably like the fastest growing RL library at this point. It's a code review for a 2,000 line environment that he spent like at least a month on, so yeah. Hey, Bet. I gotta go to the gym in like half hour, but I will. I'm gonna finish this review. We can chat after though. By percent of absolute numbers, I think overall, I mean maybe other than Torch RL, which is backed by Meta, I haven't seen any other RL projects growing faster than this. I think by absolute and percentage, or like some like reasonable combination of the two. I don't know. I'm working on the notes. I'll send these in a bit when I'm finished. I don't care about the magic numbers. I care about duplicated magic numbers and redundancy more than anything. Magic numbers are not bad if they're like if they're there once. It's fine. Yeah, I think the main thing is just the early return there, and that's fine. Otherwise, uh, top-down approach a little different. What do you mean the top-down approach? Hmm. Okay, so this is fine. Funny you don't compute obs here. Up there. A lot of behavior that wasn't necessarily easy to plan. Yeah, that's normal. That's true of any substantial application bet. You don't plan, you don't just plan everything from the top down. That's not how programming works. People try to do that, they fail miserably, and then they end up rewriting it 5 times anyways. Coding is an iterative process. You plan from the ground up. I mean, I do some thinking about like the data structures and whatnot that I'm going to be using to represent the game. Um, and I think some about that, but from the most part, I just start implementing stuff in the simplest way possible and iterate. Look remarkably different. Tried to plan everything from the get-go when I first started programming, just wasted. Yeah, exactly. It's a balance. You do think about like data structures and stuff. Um, you think about data structures a little bit and like core. I mean, stuff like the MOBA, like the mixed discrete continuous representation, I had to think about a little bit. Stuff like that. Okay, so this is mostly fine here. Let's look at compute obs. This is an important function, very important function. Most obs normalize 0 to 1. X norm, Y norm. Yeah, but that's not the main problem. It's not a design problem. This is like, most of the things I'm mentioning here could be iteratively refactored. There's nothing like fundamentally wrong in the design of your environment. It's just a bunch of things that need to be polished is all. Is LSTM backend in RL for the time dimension? Yes, it is. Or does it work for keeping and updating a representation over 100 plus steps? Isn't that the same thing? So the effective horizon of your LSTM is going to depend on a lot of things. Mostly the size of the LSTM and the amount of training that you've done on it. But LSTM is typically the standard in RL, and it has been, I mean, it was used to solve Dota, if that tells you anything. And they did a test that it could remember like a few minutes back worth of gameplay. Player position and speed. Awesome, in my project I use a batch of T5 steps. Feed it into a CNN-like thing. T minus 5. Is that T5 the transformer or T minus 5? Oh, I think you're just referring to stacking. Yeah, we do LSTM over stacking. Yeah, we do LSTM over stacking by default because we have a fast LSTM implementation. In most repositories, they have slow LSTM implementations. In our case, usually the LSTM will just be faster and will be fine. For 5 steps, the LSTM should also like just be able to remember that no problem. I'd give it a try. LSTM is really easy in Puffer. It's a one-line wrapper addition to try LSTM versus no LSTM in Puffer. Stacking is a lot more overhead for smaller sequential. Yeah, stacking does give you a lot of overhead as well. Memory overhead. There are ways around that guy, but they're a little annoying to implement, like lazy frame stuff. They're a little annoying to implement, and you still end up materializing the extra frames most of the time. So yeah, it's not great. Okay, so this gets recomputed like 5 different times. Bet. Playable area right, playable area left. Doing better job crashing constants. Playable right. I've thought about doing exponentially timed spaced frame stacks in the past. Where is this? LSTM. Oh, this is, yeah. I guess he uploaded it. Why did he upload it to this shit? Dang. Why did he upload it to this garbage website? Well, if you can get it off of here. Oh no, here it is. Yeah. You see? This is in 2016, I believe. This architecture. One, two, four. We were doing this for like random language modeling stuff. So there you go. Must not have been very well. We did like the frameworks and everything suck. It seemed kind of reasonable. You get like a really hairy compute graph is all. So like you'd probably have to implement a kernel for it. I don't know if anybody really gave it enough of a good try. I think that the thing that was better was just using the LSTM at different frequencies instead of using skip connections. So instead of using exponentially timed stacks, you just do exponential like branching or whatever. That was before I did RL. That was language modeling days. Okay, let's see what you have here. So yeah, this is mostly pretty simple and pretty fine. Actually, the way that you have this bed is a lot more amenable to an intentional style architecture, interestingly enough. But it seems like it just works with a flat one. Well, you've designed an OBS that is amenable to attentional style architectures, like attention over cars or whatever. But it's not being used that way at the moment, I know. You can look at the GPU drive architecture, actually. It's you kind of did something similar to like, the GPU drive has an architecture for that. Curved, okay, and then we're gonna have like this stuff. And this should be pretty fast, because there's nothing super expensive in here. This is like the third time I've seen this piece of logic. Is lane empty is definitely duplicated. Is lane empty logic duplicated? And then norm distance, okay. Update road curve. Yeah, so this is the obnoxious math that you had to do, I'm sure. Depth thresholds. Road edge X. It's mainly just how all the code is spaced and laid out with the really long variable names and the giant line lengths. Generally what I'll do is if I have like a piece of math, right, there's a reason that mathematicians have short variable names. I'll like alias everything and then just write the math. Like this is fine. Yeah, it's fine to have a piece of math like this. This is fine. Code review for Enduro? Yeah, that's what we're doing, Spencer. The reason they use short variable names. Well, it's also just like you end up with stuff you can actually frickin' read. There's a place for long variable names, and there's a place where you absolutely don't want long variable names. You know, this is fine for this. This is fine. I'm not gonna come. This is actually one of the better things in here. This is totally fine. Set. That's fine. I swear I've seen this piece of logic before, but that's fine. Okay, and that's all the logic. So now we just have to do. I got like another 15 minutes to do the renderer. Malloc client. All right, so the thing that I already said and I already put in here is that the client doesn't need to have game state in it. You can just like flatten all of that. Client not null. I personally don't bother doing this check. If you call free on something that's already been freed, that's your fault, and the address sanitizer should catch that. Yeah, best practice my ass. Look, maybe if you're developing the Linux kernel, then then sure. Here you just like, if you double free, then you go figure that out, whatever. Render car. Okay. Yeah, you literally would have to close it twice, right? And if you close it twice, then I'd rather get the error and be like, hey, at least I'd rather get the segfault or the whatever. Exactly. Okay, so a bunch of the stuff that you're zeroing, calc zeros for you. So that doesn't do anything. If the reason for anything is ever because it's best practice, That's just like because that's like saying because I say so, right? That doesn't fucking mean anything. Oh, welcome YouTube folks, welcome Twitch folks. Finishing up code review for Enduro here. This is Bet's high performance version of a classic Atari game with a superhuman neural network running it right now. There you go. Let's see. What else here? Asset mountain 0 plus I. Game state mountain indices. Asset mountain 0 plus I. Oh, I see. Yeah, but the way you did this is a little screwy, okay? Mountain, like, this literally just gets used here, right? So you don't need all this stuff, right? You can just do, you could have made this an array. But like, instead of having this redundant enum, right? Like mountain indices, this, you could have just made mountain indices, like a struct up at the top or whatever, right? Well, no, you did both, right? You added it to the game state, and you dynamically initialize it from a bunch of redundant, from like this asset mountain 0, and then a whole bunch of redundant. Like, actually, the way you did it isn't terrible, except for the fact that you defined all these redundant ones as well. Like, do you use asset digits, all this? Look, you don't use this either. Yes, that guy. Remind me right before I end stream, and I will try to remember to do that before I run out. Can you please try to figure out, like, logging-wise, why these boxes are crashing, though? Because I really shouldn't be. Yeah, but they're not... This enum isn't used, Bet. You use the digits, you don't use the enum. Look, this isn't used anywhere. Not used in... So most of these are completely unused. So basically, you just need to have the offset, right? If anything, you just need the offsets. But then that's a little sketchy. So I see why you wanted to define all of them. But instead of doing either of these things, you could have just defined an array. You could have just defined your static array of indices and been done. But like the only reason that you have to avoid the jank at all is because you didn't just define them as arrays. Like you could have just done like asset mountain indices, and you could have just made that 0 to 15, or like 16 to whatever this is, 16 plus 15, 31. And then same thing for digits. Like this could have been like 3 or 4 lines with nothing redundant, and you would have been good. So stuff like this for sure. I know you use this, the pointer, right? It's the start, but like, look at what you're doing here. You basically like you're defining a constant at runtime is what you're doing. Like for whatever reason, you've decided to like have this initialized content at runtime. So you end up with the overhead of all the enums and still this extra initializer logic. Not take car animation. Scoreboard. It's funny that it rolls over like that. Okay, these nested. That's kind of legit, actually, right? That's fine. Render background. Render scoreboard. This, you do expect to have a little bit of complexity because it's animated. Scroll with scrolling effect. Yeah, so that's fine. This is like a fine amount of logic for a scroll effect. Digit moving up. Render next digit coming from below. Yep. That looks good. Good job with that. Day number. What is this car label? Oh. Why is this in render scoreboard? Project looks very big. What, all of PufferLib or this Enduro game? I think that if you actually refactor this, this will be like at least 500 lines less, based on all the stuff I've shown you. Yeah. It's just kind of fiddly. They're like a lot of like random little things to match. Victory effects. Okay, come on, Bet. Not. Right? Did you code everything? Bet has coded hopefully everything, and hopefully has not had ChatGPT implementing substantial blocks of this. Yeah. No, I will be, the one thing is I will be substantially pissed off if people ask me to review code for them written by, that they didn't even write. Yeah, ChatGPT cannot implement this. What does Puffer do? Ultra high performance reinforcement learning with a nice large suite of first party environments that we have written that are also ultra performant and fast. So you can test your reinforcement learning algorithms, methods, whatever, very, very fast. You can apply them to a wide range of problems, provides nice compatibility tools, provides hyperparam sweep integration, generally makes the whole area of reinforcement learning much less painful and much faster. Under mountains. Okay, so y is 4. Oh, okay, interesting. That's fine. Didn't understand anything. Puffer.ai is the website if you want to check out some of the demos. Copy. Okay, so this is the thing. You don't have to do this. Like, copy m state game state not needed. This level of separation slows stuff down. Adds redundant. code. Yeah, so Bet, I was saying this earlier on the stream. I think that you misinterpreted what I was telling you originally. When I told you to get the render logic out of the game state, it was like you shouldn't be doing raylib or client anything when you're just running the game and not rendering, right? But the other way around is not true. You're allowed to use the environment state from the renderer, and we do this for literally like every single env. If you look at like all the different envs, right? Every single one that has substantial state, that's how I do it. Because this is just adding like extra with all the redundant stuff in game state, extra 100 lines of code, extra 20 lines of copies, doesn't do anything for you at all. Yeah, so but before what you were doing is you had like render logic and like arraylib stuff being loaded with the game state. I think this was back before you'd even trained at all, right? This was when like you literally couldn't even make an instance of your environment without starting like raylib in it and stuff. Um, so that's what I meant by separate them. You took it to an extreme and you tried to write something that looks a lot more like a client server architecture that you would use in a multiplayer online game. That level of separation is not needed and is going to add like a bunch of redundant stuff. Um, yeah. Hey Sid, welcome. Yeah. So like try to think about like why I tell you to do this stuff, right? So the reason is that like the rendering is separate from the game logic, right? The rendering is on top of the game, but that doesn't mean that it has to have a copy of everything from the game that's used for rendering. The only time you need that is when like you're communicating packets of data over the internet and you need to render from those packets and then reconstruct a state locally, like what you do in an online game. If you're not doing that, there's absolutely no reason to have that architecture because it just makes stuff more complex and doesn't buy you anything. About to get into RLHF, but for LM's alignment next month. Very new to AI. ML. I hope you have some compute, because that's a expensive area to be working in. Yeah, so this game state bet can just be, like this can be env, or this can be client, comma, env, like doesn't matter. Okay. I also preferentially, I typically put client constants like with the client code instead of all the way at the top. That's kind of just preference. Not a big deal. Okay, so this is, you figured this out. Avoid constant rearranging. Yeah, you shouldn't have to rearrange. It should not be that bad. A DeepSeek researcher still had 2,000 H200s. I don't know if you have that personally. I certainly don't. We've got like 94090s so far. Okay, bet what is this? There. I wanted it to be indented. That's all. No, seriously, don't just have random ass indents. 15 bill load onto 15 bill is still gigantic for embedded devices. Most of it is Python indentation. No, look, you had it like this, dude. You had this for loop starting here and then randomly unindenting, and this is still in the for loop. I mean, you're not even in Vim, right? You have an IDE. The IDE should yell at you for that. And then yeah, using a buffer is fine for scaling, because I told you this like I told you to do this like way late, so this is totally fine. Good job. Okay, that is full review of stuff. Let me make sure it builds. Does build, everything looks totally good. What do you mean Python indentation for C? It's the same thing, man. No, this is C indentation. It's the same thing. You just indent the code below your for loops and conditionals. Like, this is not me doing Python style in C. The only thing I do that's Python style in C is I'm used to snake case now, so I mostly do that. But, yeah. Make sure it still runs. It's only a matter of preference within a certain margin. You indent the shit below your loops and conditionals consistently. Okay, so I'm gonna merge this PR. And then I'm gonna send you this feedback. So here's your feedback. PR this to 2.0. Fire. So yeah, and this still trains perfect. So I only did maybe like a quarter of the changes that I saw bet. You can watch the VOD if you want full details. I also put a lot of it in the comments. I think you could, I think at least they're like 500 lines more than there need to be in this environment, at the very least. Um, Up to you whether you want to spend the time refactoring, but yeah, this could be substantially streamlined if you want to do it. I think it's generally like a pretty good thing for you to do, just like learning, just code improvements in general. Um, Up to you if you want to spend time doing that versus writing new stuff. I will review Blastar either tonight or tomorrow or whenever. I'm going to go to the gym for now, unless you have any pressing questions, and I will be back streaming in the afternoon. For folks on YouTube and Twitch, all this stuff is free and open source. Lots of people contributing new environments. Please star the GitHub repo. That helps me out a ton and it's free. All our stuff's on puffer.ai as well, Discord, X, all that. All of our demos, you can play them right here and watch agents play them. These are all, clickable. You have all these demos. And you can get all our code on PufferLib here too. So if there's nothing else, then thanks, folks. And I will be back in 2-3 hours after